Nakikiusap naman ang pamunuan ng Philippine General Hospital sa mga pasyente na kung maaari ay maghanap ng alternatibong ospital. Siksika na kasi ngayon ang mga pasyente dahil hindi pa tapos ang renovation sa PGH.
Tiyempo pang tumaas ng halos 6 na beses ang mga itinakbo sa ER ngayong buwan. Ayon sa PGH, wala naman silang tinatanggihang pasyente. May pakiusap lang sila at paalala.
Hundreds upon thousands of patients, primarily the poor and marginalized, rely daily on Philippine General Hospital, the Philippines' largest government tertiary center. Even when the patients inside are already asleep at night, another round of patients are already lining up outside the hospital, hoping to save their slot for a checkup or therapy the next day.
It is hard for people to have accessible healthcare, let alone a quality one. But they have to thrive and sacrifice. The same thing happens with Filipino farmers across different plantations in the Philippines.
Hindi obra kasalo kung papaar ka ng anak, hindi kaya yan. Hindi kaya nakalamay siya kung papaar ka ng anak mo.
Kumbaga takot kapeta yan, 4 na kilo yan.
4 na kilo?
Okay. Bibigyan ka ba ng gobyerno ng ganito kalaki? Makikita nyo yung damo. Bibidyohan nyo rin. Ito paano gagawin ng magsasaka dito sa mga gobyerno, paano magkukuha na. Ano tulong gagawin no, di ba?
Tragic, but it happens. Even if we do everything, lives can still be lost or destroyed. Just like how cancer destroys our hope after trying so long to hold on.
I lost my uncle, the closest uncle that I have due to colorectal cancer. And for me, it was not only painful, it was more of heavy, especially in my heart.
These are only a few of the stories we don't get to hear each day. The pain might be hidden in their hearts, but one thing is for sure. We have to fight.
According to a concilio and 𝗔𝗲𝗄 in 2023, colorectal cancer ranks 3rd among malignancies with the highest incidence in the Philippines, which brought 1.9 million new cases globally and has been the cause of death to an estimated 930,000 people in 2020. What's more scary is that the same disease is increasingly diagnosed in younger people due to unhealthy lifestyles.
Colorectal cancer treatments such as chemotherapy, targeted therapy, radiation therapy, immunotherapy, and surgery have side effects that include damaging healthy cells, weakening the immune system, and being extremely expensive. A 2024 study by 𝗔𝗂𝗏-𝗔𝗐𝗏 suggests the need for cheaper, plant-based alternatives due to the drawbacks of artificial drugs.
The picture shows an infestation caused by a noxious weed in banana or abaca. The weed is named heartleaf hempvine, or in its scientific name, 𝗵𝗂𝗆 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗫. Due to this weed, farmers spend thousands on labor and herbicides to mitigate the threat with no avail.
Interestingly, this plant acts similarly to how cancer poses a threat to humans. A federal noxious weed from the family of Aceraceae that poses a danger to crops like abaca, banana, and calamansi, but that doesn't enter. This plant is a creepy woody perennial, fast-growing and twining vine known to have capabilities such as antibacterial, anti-ulcer, anti-inflammatory, and apparently anti-cancer potential.
Thus, we plan to solve 2 problems at once by conducting a study entitled Anti-Angiogenic Capability of Heartleaf Hempvine on 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and its Potential Against Cancer Hallmarks of Human Carcinoma Colorectal Cancer.
Our study aims to do the following. First, investigate the anti-cancer potential of 𝗵𝗂𝗆 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗫 by experimenting with the plant's different fractions. Second, examine the plant's ability through thick chorioallantoic membrane assay or CAM assay and MTT assay to address the said hallmarks of cancer. Lastly, expand scientific knowledge on the plant's bioactive compound for future research.
This research helps the patients, agricultural sectors, and scientific community by exploring a potential cost-effective alternative treatment, offering agricultural benefits and providing valuable data on the understudied plant 𝗵𝗂𝗆 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗫.
Our methodology is derived from multiple related literatures and consultations from various universities. To start, we collected 2 kilograms of heartleaf hempvine leaves and over-dried it at 60 degrees Celsius for 1.5 hours. The oven-dried leaves were then pulverized into a powder, and the moisture content of the powder was measured using a moisture balance, ensuring that the water content was less than 10%. 100 grams of heartleaf hempvine was macerated using 4 liters of 70% methanol for 72 hours, following the protocol derived from a study conducted by 𝗵𝗂𝗇𝗏 et al.
The 𝗵𝗂𝗺𝗪𝗏 methanoleic extract underwent purification and fractionation through liquid-liquid partitioning using hexane and ethyl acetate, rotary evaporation and lyophilization to obtain the final ethyl acetate fraction or EAF, hexane fraction or HF, and lyophilized methanolic fraction or LMF, which was derived from the macerated leaves directly.
The 4 fraction produced then underwent phytochemical analysis to validate the compounds within the plant. 12 tests were performed to look for the presence of saponins, alkaloids, flavonoids, carbohydrates, tannins, and glycosides. After that, thin layer chromatography or TLC was performed to identify each fraction's retention factor and polarity. A 5 by 20 cm TLC plate underwent a mobile phase where the solvent was poured into the jar and closed until the gas evaporated, and the stationary phase where samples were separated depending on their polarity.
After the stationary phase, the TLC plate was put in the TLC visualizer tree to visualize the compounds not visible under white light. The ultraviolet 366 nanometer or long-wave ultraviolet C and ultraviolet 254 nanometers or short-wave ultraviolet C modes were used to make the compounds visible. The farther the compound was from the lower line, the more nonpolar it was, and the nearer the compound was from the lower line, the more polar it was.
The MPP assay was done to determine the cell viability, cell proliferation, and cytotoxicity of each fraction. The MPP assay was serviced at the Mammalian Cell Culture Laboratory located at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. The procedure performed was adapted from a study by Mossman with minor modification. Phosphate buffer solution was used as a negative control while 𝗚𝗂𝗏 was a positive control.
Samples were dissolved in dimethyl sulfoxide at 10 micrograms per milliliter. 8-fold dilutions of the sample were used as treatments starting from 100 micrograms per milliliter to 0.78125 micrograms per milliliter and were incubated for 72 hours at 37 degrees Celsius and 5% carbon dioxide. 570 nanometers wavelength or OD 570. It was used to read absorbances using a spectrophotometric microplate reader, and the percent inhibition was computed.
The 𝗔𝗂𝗺𝗪𝗏 membrane assay was conducted to investigate the effects of the plant in inhibiting angiogenesis, a crucial hallmark in cancer development. The researchers prepared multiple solutions. The positive control was quercetin. The negative control was the same as the irritant, which was 1% sodium didoxyl sulfate in phosphate buffer solution, and the extracts were mixed with the vehicle control of 10% dimethyl sulfoxide in phosphate buffer solution.
The positive and negative controls were used to establish the positive and negative responses respectively, and the vehicle solution was used to liquefy the extract used. Lastly, the data from the MPT and 𝗔𝗂𝗺𝗪𝗏 membrane assays were analyzed using Dixon's Q-test to find out the outliers within the trials conducted, and one-way analysis of variance paired with post-hoc talkies for the comparison of each extract.
After completing the extraction process, the researchers macerated 100 grams of powdered leaves in 4 liters of 70% methanol. This yielded approximately 509.3 milligrams of the ethyl acetate fraction, 89.8 milligrams of the hexane fraction, and 10 grams of the lyophilized aqueous.
The graph shows the data collected from the qualitative phytochemical analysis. The aqueous layer tested positive for glycosides, while the methanolic and ethyl acetate layers tested positive for saponins and alkaloids.
Additionally, the ethyl acetate fraction had the most number of spots in the thin layer chromatography, showing the most noticeable and repetitive observation for plausible bioactive compounds. The results establish evidence for ethyl acetate's nomination as the most suitable fraction for further fractionation.
In the 𝗔𝗂𝗺𝗪𝗏 membrane assay, the ethyl acetate fraction demonstrated a notable anti-angiogenic effect, not only showing moderate inflammation inhibition at 100 microgram per milliliter, but also maintaining high inflammation inhibition even at lower concentrations of 1 and 50 microgram per milliliters.
This consistent performance contrasts with the other fractions, which only showed a gradual increase in anti-inflammatory activity as their concentrations increased.
Lastly, in the NDT assay on the HCT116 cancer cell line in the 72-hour exposure span, the extract showed a dose-dependent inhibition of the cancer cell growth. The ethyl acetate fraction stood out with the highest cytotoxicity, having an IC50 of 12.89 microgram per milliliter. These findings are in line with previous studies by 𝗔𝗫𝗏 et al. On the same plant with a different cell line, and by 𝗵𝗫𝗏 et al., who studied kaffir lime leaves extracts on MCF7 cells.
Based on our findings, 𝗵𝗂𝗺𝗏𝗪 has shown both cytotoxic and anti-angiogenic activity against the colorectal cancer cell line HCT116. Among the tested extract, the ethyl acetate fraction emerges as the most promising candidate for further investigation due to its strong performance in its anti-angiogenesis, cytotoxicity, and its rich profile of potential bioactive compounds.
Supported by studies from 𝗘𝗂𝗧𝗏 et al. And Chen et al., the presence of alkaloids and saponins in 𝗵𝗂𝗺𝗏 is likely key to its cancer-inhibiting effects. The results of liquid-liquid partitioning also suggest a trend. More polar compounds, as seen in the ethyl acetate fraction, were more effective against HCT116 cell lines than less polar ones, like those in the FC fraction. Linear chromatography further reinforces the potential of the ethyl acetate fraction as a source of anti-cancer agents.
Beyond its scientific value, this study may help raise awareness about the growing burden of colorectal cancer while offering a potential low-cost treatment alternative. It also highlights the value of an understudied plant, like 𝗵𝗂𝗺𝗏𝗪, aligning with the goals of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, by promoting research that could elevate the lives of people, families, farmers, researchers, and communities.
Problems stay as problem, not until we do something about it.
We spend so much time searching for answers, digging deep, when in fact they're right next to us, hidden in plain sight. But instead of facing these truths, many of us turn away. We scroll past climate change, ignore poverty, overlook health crisis, and stay silent on social issues. And when things get tough, we call it resilience, as if enduring pain is something to celebrate.
But not us.
We believe that resilience is not just about surviving, it's about fighting back. Through research, we choose to rise, to challenge, and to act.
Even if the world looks the other way or pushes back, the lives of people who keep fighting for what's right, to survive against cancer, to flourish as agriculture, to embark on a journey of rediscovering scientific knowledge, help us further strengthen our resolve. We won't sit down.
We won't stay silent.
We're here to make it.
As youths of this society, we believe that
United against cancer, we